Welcome to Impact News. We begin, folks, with your money. That's right, folks. Looking at your money, why do we have so much inflation? That's what I'd like to know. Is it corporate greed? Is it wages? What is it? Well, former U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich says corporations are simply using rising costs as an excuse to increase their prices even higher. Why not, folks? Who cares about you? And these companies are making record profits just because they can, folks. And let me add that the prices are higher and the packaging and the contents are both smaller. So these companies are getting a double hit. Corporate profits are so high, they're close to levels not seen in over 50 years. Reich adds most workers' paychecks are shrinking in terms of real purchasing power, and that is a measure, folks, of competition. Companies don't really have any these days, so they do exactly what they want to do. Since the 1980s, 2/3 of all American industries have become more concentrated. Folks, get this and you won't believe it. Just 4 companies control 85% of meat and poultry processing. Just one corporation sets the price of most of the nation's seed corn. 2 giant firms dominate consumer supplies. Big Pharma is made up of 5 giant companies, is causing drug prices to soar. Wall Street has consolidated into just 5 giant banks. Broadband is dominated by 3 giant cable companies, all of them raising their prices. Automobile dealers are enjoying record profits as they raise the retail price of automobiles. Reich says bold antitrust enforcement is essential. We need limited price controls to break this cycle. Some will call this socialism, but folks, capitalism without controls is just the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer and the middle class joining the ranks of the poor. Okay, we have to bring things back in line so that everyone can benefit, not just the rich. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me. I'll be right back with more. Here are your news headlines, folks, all around the neighborhood and all around the world. We want you to know that there is a tragedy for 3 students of Hampton University. We'll tell you about it. Plus, Elon Musk and Kanye West, a recipe for disaster for African Americans. Then no one really trusts the U.S. Supreme Court anymore. We'll tell you more about that. Then wait until you hear who the Mississippi GOP is endorsing for public office. Looking at the diaspora, Jamaica's economy is on fire. In financial news, Honda's building a new plant in Ohio. In international news, we have news of the economies of Korea. And also today, that's in our international report. Also today in our health report, Dr. K gives you more tips on breast cancer prevention. Stay with me. There is a tragedy, folks, at HBCU Hampton University where 2 students suffered life-threatening injuries after a plane crash that was piloted by a 23-year-old flight instructor. Now, you should know the flight instructor was killed. She was also a Hampton grad. Her name was Victoria Lungman of Sweden. She was giving 18-year-old student Olubonomi Oyebode and another student a lesson when one of the students apparently pointed the nose of the plane too high, causing it to stall. The plane crashed. It was flying out of Newport News, Williamsburg International Airport, where Lungman worked as a flight instructor. They were flying a single-engine Cessna 172 plane. The 2 students were taking aviation lessons as part of Hampton University's partnership with Rick Aviation Flight School. We're so sorry to hear that about Hampton University, those students there. We are certainly praying for their survival. Let's move on. You can thank Elon Musk for his comments to get Kanye West's Twitter account restored after West made an anti-Semitic comment. You know that West said that he was going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. Just keep your mouth closed. It's just enough. Between that and the White Lives Matter t-shirt, Kanye should be done. Of course, Black conservative pundit Candace Owens, you know she stood right there strong with Kanye going against anything that says Black Lives Matter. The move immediately received backlash from the Anti-Defamation League, calling the phrase hate speech. Meanwhile, folks, the Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, he's at it again. He's defending what he calls West's independent thinking. Oh, okay. You can imagine what kind of justice African Americans, people of color, and Jewish people are getting in the state of Indiana. And FYI, just so you know how ridiculous Rokita is, he is the person who launched a legal claim against a doctor for providing an abortion to a 10-year-old rape victim. Oh, these are the worst. The GOP, no integrity, no ethics, nothing. All right, speaking of that, let's move on to the U.S. Supreme Court, where it shows this no integrity, no ethics thing shows up again. No one really trusts the U.S. They'll do it to the whole country if we let them. No one really trusts the U.S. Supreme Court anymore. The rise of the 6-3 conservative court and the way Republicans literally threw the last 3 justices on the court are all to blame. Now only 46% of U.S. adults say that they have a great deal or a fair amount of trust in the Supreme Court. That's more than a 20% drop-off since 2019. We also know that the court overruled, we know one of the big reasons, they overruled Roe v. Wade. That was a woman's right to an abortion. It was a 50-year precedent that they just threw in the trash just because they could. It was completely out of step with public opinion, but they didn't care. That didn't stop them because it's not about us, it's about them, folks. It's about their biases, their politicization, and their racism. And speaking of that, there are some very important issues such as affirmative action in higher education, voting rights, and LGBTQ discrimination, all of those on the court's agenda this session. So you better take a look at that. The court must be expanded, and frankly, Clarence Thomas should either resign or retire. Maybe he'll have to retire to keep his wife from being charged in the insurrection. Think about it. Makes sense, doesn't it? Get him off the court. All right, also today, the Mississippi GOP is so corrupt that it is endorsing a candidate who allegedly exposed himself to a woman and her daughter at a YMCA. His name is Russell Protentis. He's charged with open and gross lewdness after he allegedly exposed himself in the Y pool where a woman and her daughter were swimming. And he denied the allegations, folks, but he admits to giving false names to the YMCA when they questioned him about it. Police say the 52-year-old woman and her 27-year-old daughter were swimming in the pool when they saw that an elderly man had pulled his business out of the top of his swimsuit and was blatantly exposing himself to her and anybody else who was in the area. This is who the GOP thinks is an acceptable candidate. And it shows all over the nation, folks. Stay away from the GOP. Then, let's move on. Thanks to another bad candidate, Donald Trump, and all the white nationalists, now when African Americans run for office, they have to have serious security, and folks, it is expensive. That's more money to raise. I call it another black tax. Stacey Abrams has spent $1.2 million on private security since December. And as you know, Stacey Abrams is a Georgia Democrat who's running for governor. All right, from Wisconsin, a federal judge there dismissed a lawsuit against Biden's student loan forgiveness. His name, Judge William Griesbach. He wrote that the group doesn't have standing to challenge the plan simply because they're taxpayers, folks. The lawsuit was filed by the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. The group argued that Biden's order unlawfully circumvented Congress's power over spending, and they also said it was discriminatory because it particularly helps borrowers of color. Where are these people with their big fat lawsuits when people of color are discriminated against? They don't care. It's when they get helped that they have a problem. Biden enacted, but he's smarter than them. Biden enacted the debt relief plan under the HEROES Act, just so you know. It gives the executive branch authority to forgive student loan debt in association with military operations or national emergencies. The act was passed after the 9/11 attacks, and as you know, the president cited COVID-19 as the reason to invoke the act. Similar lawsuits have been filed in similar states. Let's hope they have similar results. Then Deloitte US, they're committing $1.5 billion towards achieving social equity. It's all in response to the ever-growing black-white wealth gap. It is such a disgrace. The average black household has $142,000 in wealth in 2019 compared with $980,000 for the average white household. This means that on average, black households have 14.5% of the wealth of the average white household, with an absolute dollar gap of $838,000. Whew. Deloitte will partner with grassroots nonprofits to advance equity in education, healthcare, and workforce development. Some of the initiatives and institutions that will be supported are the Black Directors Health Equity Agenda, Morehouse School of Medicine, Robin Hood, the Posse Foundation, World Economic Forum, Bravin, and the Greater Washington Partnership. In addition, Deloitte Digital has teamed up with the United Negro College Fund. They're going to build an online education platform dubbed HBCUV to elevate digital learning and build community. Thank you, Deloitte. It's good to know there are good people out there working to help make things more fair. And then Jamaica is on track to return to its pre-COVID level economy. That'll happen by 2023. The Minister of Finance and Public Service says if the goal is met, Jamaica will be far ahead of its Caribbean peers. The minister says right now Jamaica is at 97% of pre-COVID levels of economic output, up from 82% during COVID. Those are your stories. Stay with me. We've got a lot more. It is time for your Slay Word of the Week, and the word this week is holus bolus, HOLUS-BOLUS, holus bolus. It's an adverb. That means it modifies or describes the verb, folks. Its origin is the mid-19th century, and the definition, it means all at once. All at once, okay? Let's use it in a sentence. When the insurrectionists stormed the U.S. Capitol, everything happened holus bolus. Fortunately, and at that time, it was hard for the police and all of us to know what happened, but fortunately, we got cameras. So we got that all figured out, and everybody's on trial going to prison. All right, second sentence. My daughter jumped up and did all of her household chores holus bolus, and I was confused. Then she asked me for that $300 braid job, and I got it. I know you've all been there. Holus bolus, it's an adverb that means all at once. Try it out in your convos all this week and level up your vocab. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me.
Anyone who thinks that slavery ended in the 1860s with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation are grievously wrong.
If we caught a bird, we ate through the feathers and ate the bird. We didn't have nothing to cook on. We didn't have no stove.
You know who you are and who we are.
We're still on that big plantation.
She was bonded to them until they died. She was their slave.
They said, well, we're going to be killed tonight.
Could that same white dude keep terrorists there? Or Russian spies? Or the KGB? Then the government wouldn't know it? No.
They thought I was beat so bad that I couldn't do nothing, but I did.
Where are you? We are out there looking for you, and with the community's help, Tiana Slater, we're going to find you. Chicago police say Tiana Slater was 15 years old when she was reported missing from the 1000 block of North Milwaukee Avenue in the Noble Square neighborhood. Slater is 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs 115 pounds, and has brown hair. She was last seen wearing a black windbreaker, light blue ripped jeans, and black gym shoes. Please call 1-800-THE-LOST, 800-843-5678 with any information about the case of Tiana Slater. Where are you, Tiana Slater? We are out there looking for you, and with the community's help, we will find you. We are back with your international report with Dr. Inyang Ebong-Harstrup. Ini, how are you today?
I'm good, Carol, and I thought today I'd like to talk about inequality. You know, I like to talk about these big subjects, and inequality is one that's always on my mind. And Oxfam and the Development Finance International have just completed a report which shows great improvement in inequality in the global South. So you have South Korea, Singapore, Tajikistan, and the Maldives have all made some huge strides in tackling inequality in the context of the global pandemic for COVID-19. While Hong Kong has experienced one of the sharpest declines, and this we know is because of China taking over Hong Kong. But I wanted to show that Moldova, Morocco, Egypt, Mauritius, and the occupied Palestinian territories, they're also amongst the top 10 big improvers in inequality. Tajikistan saw the biggest improvement in government policies to fight inequality during the pandemic, jumping 37 places, according to the index that was released on Tuesday, followed by Maldives and Bhutan. So you see, these are all little southern countries. And countries that saw the biggest declines are countries where there is civil strife. Afghanistan, Togo, Honduras, they saw the biggest declines. That was due to collapsing tax revenues and other factors, including deterioration of labor rights for women and shrinking social spending. And that was something that was very interesting in this report. The countries that really tried to face inequality and spend properly were, of course, Norway, which topped the list, followed by Germany, Australia, Belgium, Canada, Japan, Denmark, and New Zealand. So where countries tried to increase taxation, especially of the rich, to increase social spending, you saw inequality decline. Where they did the opposite, you saw it increase.
Well, we certainly are seeing the same thing here in the United States. Thank you so much, Dr. Inyang Ebong-Harshuk. Of course, she is our international expert, and we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week for more news. Thank you, Eni.
Thank you, Carol.
In financial news, we turn to Coinbase. It'll be the service that Google uses to take cloud payments using cryptocurrencies. Now, it all starts in early 2023. It's a good move for Google since none of its top competitors allow clients to pay with digital currencies. So Coinbase, we should tell you, it's Coinbase Commerce. It's going to support 10 currencies, including Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, also Dogecoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. In addition, Google also says it's going to explore using Coinbase Prime for storing and trading cryptocurrencies. Let's move on. Also today, good news for Ohio, where Honda was building a new $4.4 billion electric vehicle plant. Honda Motor and LG Energy Solution, well, they say the new plant is going to cost between 3.5 and 4.4 billion bucks. Construction is expected to begin in early 2023, followed by mass production of lithium-ion batteries. That should happen by 2025. The facility is going to be located about 40 miles southwest of Columbus, Ohio. And then finally today in financial news, you remember the Paycheck Protection Program. Of course, we all remember that. Some PP loans, we should tell you, they were investigated by federal officials and flagged for potential fraud. In fact, all loans over for $2 million or more were flagged for potential fraud. But Trump removed 99% of special review fraud flags during his final weeks in office. Yes, folks, the flags were given out to every loan, as I said, above $2 million, according to a project on government oversight. That report says 2.7 million flags were removed by Trump between December 2020 and January 2021, with special preference given to the largest loans, which also often went to the largest corporations, probably friends of Trump. Those flags, folks, those loans, those flag loans, they accounted for $189 billion of taxpayer money. You guessed it, your money, folks. So they're going to take the flags off the potential fraud files for anything over $2 million so that the government can look at them. The flag causes the government to look at them very closely. So Trump didn't want that to happen, so he removed the flags. So they probably won't get flagged if there's fraud, but they don't want you to get your student loan forgiven, okay? You know the drill. You know what's going on. Stand tall, stand strong, and remember, run for office. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me for more.
I'm just sick and tired of us not spending time together lately.
I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry I've been spending time with you. I've just been working on this big deal. It's gonna bring a lot more money to the household for it.
What you doing here, boss?
Yeah, just checking to see if you still got it.
You take this work. You partner. I don't want it back.
I've seen the movies, man. I know how this goes.
You see the movie, huh? You see Goodfellas, New Jack City.
Everything I do is for you. Like, I just need a little bit more time, man. Fine bullshit. Like I said, he's gonna call any second.
Why don't you take a look at this video? Guess what? It's starring you.
We are closing out the show, as you know, with Dr. K, keeping your health in mind. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Breast cancer. And of course, we're talking about breast cancer prevention. Get your mammogram, become aware. But this is really Breast Cancer Prevention Month, especially as it concerns women of the diaspora. I want to talk today about obesity and the relationship with breast cancer. Number one point, obesity after menopause is a very important risk factor in the development of breast cancer. Obesity before menopause, protective against breast cancer, if you can believe it.
Wow, that's great.
After menopause, the body is not producing estrogen. However, fat cells produce estrogen, especially fat cells around the midline. So they're producing estrogen when your body has really cut off the estrogen faucet, and you don't want estrogen produced. So therefore, exercise, weight gain is not a part of aging. Maintaining a normal weight is very important to fight against breast cancer and other gynecological cancers. So let's continue with our series on prevention, and let's have some lifestyle choices that really, really can hold back breast cancer. Thanks for
Dr. K, real quick. What about people who take estrogen supplements because they're in menopause?
Absolutely not. No other additional sources of estrogen after menopause. Now, the risk is really after menopause supplements for 5 years. Okay. So there are some people that are on them, and I guess under 5 years is okay, but after 5 years is not okay.
Wow. Thank you so much. Okay. And thank you for focusing on breast cancer. We know it's a big problem in our community. And thank you for tuning in every week. We give you all the information you need to make it to the next week. I'm Carol Angela Davis. This has been Dr. K.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next week. From all of us here at Impact News, we'll see you next week. Have a great week.